right, and welcome to another episode of Shire Health Chats, Locals Talking Health. I'm here with Luke Ireland, who's one of our resident psychologists in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Luke, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I was actually really stoked to get to sit down with you because you were here 3 years ago when I first arrived, and you're a bit of an enigma. You run the business. You've grown rapidly in the last few years. Despite a pandemic, you've expanded your business.
True.
And you've also, your golf game's not too bad, I hear. So.
that's nice. Yeah, I suppose that's true. Yeah.
So, look, give me an idea about who you are. Where you're from. What's your story?
Where am I from? Okay, who am I? So, I'm a father of four. I've got four boys under 11, so 11, 9, 7, and 4. Been a psychologist for like 15 years now. Only into private practice like the last 5 years. I kind of did that on purpose, really so I could know who I was before I did my own thing. Love doing psychology, as you acutely said. I love golf, love surfing, sport, mindfulness, and I think really coming into this, coming into 23, it kind of, with the pandemic and stuff, it actually probably suited me, I think, because a lot of new school psychology is kind of pretty fluid, and it's the kind of thing now where there's no real stigma around it anymore, which is great. So, I suppose, that's a little bit about me.
I want to go into something you mentioned there about stigma, because I think some of our patient populations overlap quite a bit, which is the males who are maybe they've got kids, they're in their 30s to 50s, and they're dealing with family stuff. They've sort of let their own health slide. Maybe they're a little isolated. Maybe they've lost touch with their tribe of school colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a lot of those.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you're often a good fit for those type of people.
Thanks.
Where do you sort of see, where do you think we can help with men's health and mental health? Talk to me about that.
Sure. I think probably like this.
Yep.
I think men talking about these things, and probably really around, I suppose, education, because I think a lot of the further you go down the line, the less I think educated men are around what mental health is. The closer we're talking to people, thinking about funny farms, and if you look back not too far in time, if you had any kind of mental health thing, then there was something wrong with you. And a lot of men tie their esteem with how well they cope. And I think that's probably one of the most important things for men to be aware of, that being vulnerable isn't being weak. And you roll back through kind of war times, where men, if they were sad or they were down, a lot of the time they just had to cope with it. But I think if men talk about that and understand that you and I suppose as professionals, we feel as many emotions as other people do, then we're more likely to be able to kind of, I suppose, take a lot of that distress away from men and help them to understand that they experience the same things that women do.
Yeah. And I think you're touching on something there. The word stoic is often thrown around.
Yeah.
I was talking to Dr. Ryan Barton recently about the word stoic and how it's been very maligned. And if you look back at the ancient Stoics, the Romans, they weren't really about just putting up with it and cramming everything down so you don't feel it. And I think the word stoic in some ways has been driven to be, I'm stoic, it's fine, I can push through anything. But you really see the impacts down the line of that. Tell me about your business. So you guys have a number of psychologists now, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I talk a bit about Stoicism?
Oh yeah, dive into Stoicism.
I absolutely love it. So it's great. So there's a really awesome book. It's called The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. And I love talking about Stoicism because I think it is misinterpreted. So you used to think about someone who was Stoic who just was non-emotional, but new school understanding of Stoicism is that the Stoics are actually really good with their emotions because they were so able to talk about things. And it was actually a big group of men initially who talked about Stoicism because women kind of weren't allowed to, unfortunately. And what I say to men and women is actually that the men probably went home and talked to their wives about it, and then they came back and then had the understanding from them. But for me, Stoicism isn't about that. It's not about being non-emotional. It's about having a better relationship with your emotions, which is actually then talking about them. So I absolutely love Stoic psychology. I think it can go pretty heavy. It can go very heavy around that, we don't have much control over anything. I think that we do have some level of control and we can predict the future is going to exist. But heavy Stoics tend to say that we actually don't have any control over much at all except for the present. So, but I love Stoicism. I think it's a really cool thing. So,
yeah. I think some Brisbane Broncos fans didn't see a future last weekend after that loss. But anyway,
100%. That was Nathan Cleary really pulling it out of the fire and probably thinking optimistically in a spot when other people wouldn't.
So tell me more about what you do. Like, what's an average day for you? What sort of conditions do you see? What's your scope of practice? And if you can't deal with someone, who do you tie them in with?
Yeah, right. Good question. So my average day is, I suppose, pretty eclectic. So because I do NDIS work, so I'm NDIS accredited, I probably have 4 or 5 of those clients a week. I see a lot of professionals now, which is wonderful. So health professionals, I don't know, ambos, police, CEOs of companies. I do some work with the Dragons and the Sharks as their club aligned psychologist, which sounds a bit funny because there's a conflict often between those two clubs. But I do align with that practice, so I see that professional cohort. I used to do a lot of early psychosis work, so down the pointy end of the stick. I've moved away a little bit from that because I have so many clients. But I really see just about anyone. I know that sounds strange, but been doing a lot of stuff with young fathers, which is fun, young mums. Really just about anybody. And if there's I suppose, a presentation that isn't really aligning, because sometimes you have conflicts, sometimes people don't like talking to them, like different personality clashes. I just really quickly say to that person, doesn't look like it's working, and then either refer to another one of our psychologists or another group of people who's going to support them, I'd say.
Okay. So I like that term. I like the fact that you're a generalist, because there is a need for more generalism. Like, people can often get pinholed down to a very specific interest. So I like that you're a generalist and you're happy to refer, because a lot of people think once you've been referred, that's it. But often people don't match personality-wise, and that's okay. There's a process usually we go through in order to get one of our patients to you. It's called a mental health care plan. People book in to see us. They do a half-hour deep dive into what's going on, and then we refer them on appropriately to someone who we think fits. And that's what a lot of what we do on our end is. Yes, we can cancel people. We're not as good at it as you. It's what you guys do. And a lot of what we're looking for is who's a good match. So we're trying to work out personality-wise, history-wise, who's a good match. And it's really good that you guys have multiple people that they can facilitate.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think's coming in Australia? Mental health care, mental health presentations are the most common presentation in general practice. So we've obviously got some work to do.
I didn't know that.
Where do you see the future going with mental health work, and what do you think's coming for us?
Yeah, wow. Well, I would kind of hope that the utility, obviously, of the mental health care plan is that it can be provided to so many different presentations. So you have the capacity as a GP to sit there and go, actually, I'm doing this work with you, and I think hopefully, or not hopefully, I know actually that, especially in this practice, that it's like collaborative care. So you see a GP, and you go, okay, cool, we'll work on this thing, and then collaborate with a psychologist to work on that, and then we come back and collaborate together. I would hope that it went down the pathway that there was another category where just if someone wanted to, that they can come and see someone without then have to meeting a certain criteria to come and see us. So like, if you sit there and go, actually, this is I only want to improve on something. I don't need to. I'm not here for an acute risk. I'm not here because I'm scared. I'm not here because I don't know really that I'm highly suffering. That I actually just want to improve. That if there was capacity for people to go and see psychologists, and even in GPs as well, if you said that actually no, it's just a 10-session plan, the likelihood is, I think, that mental health, the sick days would decrease. There'd be more functionality in spaces. And really, what are you looking at? You're looking at, like, I don't know if it's $90 rebate. So like if it was like another $1,000 a year connected to that, I think the likelihood is that it would add value to the population of people as opposed to detracting from it. So really, I suppose taking away some of the seriousness, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Of
I agree with you
psychology.
entirely. I think anyone should be able to, if they feel they have mental health concerns, walk into a psychologist's office and have access to care. I think because right now it is a process for someone who's already feeling vulnerable and lost in the system or disempowered, and they have to book to see a GP, they have to find a GP, they have to work out how to book for a mental health care plan, they then have to be referred on to someone else after they've just poured their guts out to someone.
Yes.
So that'd be really interesting how you could streamline the pathways. I'll try and take it up with the health minister, I guess. I don't know when I'll oversee them, but that's a really interesting point. So we will wrap up soon. I just wanted to see if there's anything you wanted me to throw to you, anything you wanted to talk about or mention.
I saw your most recent post around walking on the beach. Were you at Cornell there?
That was over in Brighton.
Brighton, close. I saw that.
Very close.
I remember like the first time that I went to the Black Dog Institute a long time ago, and they had this. One of the first times when they were saying to GPs, was mainly geared at GPs, around exercising the mind and around the connection between like physical movement. I just wanted to say that it's awesome, mate, Chris, to see that you're driving these. What you say, the blue spaces and the green spaces.
It comes from something Hippocrates said, which was, I'll paraphrase here, but if you're in a bad mood, take a walk, and if you're still in a bad mood, take another walk.
Yes.
And that's a quote that's 1600 years old. I can't remember. I'm not good at history. But the idea is we've formalized it as nature bathing or green bathing or blue bathing. And the idea is that walking in nature is actually really good for the soul. And in the daily grind, we actually have lost that a bit. And there's many things that we could talk about that we feel like we might have lost in society, that tribal mentality, which comes back to footy, which is why people, I think, enjoy footy partly so much, as it is a big tribe that you join. But the idea of getting out in nature has evidence behind it. Part of it might be the light exposure or the exposure to the environment, but strong evidence for taking a walk to help with your mood. Not the be all and end all, don't get me wrong. There are some people who need other things, but it can help.
Yeah, nice. Have you I'm asking you, like I do walk and talks on the Esplanade and do a lot of these, and part of the reason my practice is at Cronulla as well, like Kirrawee here too, is so I can do that. Is there any stuff, do you ever do any sessions out in the park out there, or are you able to? Or
I think one of my goals for the next 2 years is to run a medicine in the pub, which is something some people have been toying around with, or a medicine in a non-traditional zoned area. We went down to the Sutherland Hospital and set up outside in the park there and just did skin checks and heart health checks. But I think transferring that to mental health would be very decent. And I know during the pandemic, the only way we could sometimes spend time with people for an extended period of time was to do a walk around the block. Some of us were quite hesitant to do that because of privacy concerns, but I have heard of doctors who would take a walk with their patient in the open air to limit the risk of transmission. So I think there's a huge role for men's health groups taking walks to talk about things, because blokes, like, we don't like to sit here and talk about things. We like to get up and do things as we're talking. We like to build a shed as we're talking through things. We like to watch the footy as we talk through things. So I think there's a huge role for that, and I don't know what that looks like. But I think that's something I'd like to do.
Yeah, nice. I thought that was awesome, because I was just like, when I'd seen years ago, literally GPs and in that space, like going, how can we prescribe things that aren't actual medication, and you're prescribing it down the line. I just thought that was awesome, because I do remember sitting in that space with a lot of perplexed GPs going, why are we prescribing these things? And then now we fast forward down the line, and then I don't know, I come across a post and you're walking prescribing it. So I was, I don't know, I really like that. And I just like the alignment, mate, to be fair, between thinking and for the opportunity. I've never actually been interviewed before, so it's pretty cool.
Well, that is a waste. You are a natural, but you are also busy, and I will let you run. So thank you for sitting down. It's always good to get a local talking about health.
For sure.
And you have a great day.
You too.